In this video, we're going to talk about why your business probably needs a show strategy as opposed to a content strategy coming up. What's going on, everybody? My name is Karim Mustafa. I'm co-founder and CEO of Tribe Tactics. And in this series of videos, we basically want to give you everything that you need to be able to plan and grow your very own video series for your business, whether that's a video podcast or any other type of show that you decide to grow for your business to be able to build thought leadership and grow overall. So today we're going to be talking about why your business probably needs a show strategy as opposed to a content strategy. So let me just start off by telling you the difference between the two. A content strategy is essentially any content. I'm not even going to start defining a content strategy on this video because it'll take ages, but the nuts and bolts of it is that it's your regular content strategy with a mix of everything pretty much as you would normally have in any content strategy. As you can tell, I'm probably doing a terrible job at defining what a content strategy is. I think it's much more useful to describe what a show strategy is, since you probably know what a content strategy is inside out anyway. A show strategy is more sophisticated version of a content strategy, if you like, where you're basically thinking of yourself, your brand, as a media company, as a television station, right? Where the type of like media, the type of content that you create is essentially shows, right? Now, you may start off with one show, one video podcast, one documentary series, one virtual event series, but ultimately you may come to the conclusion that, hey, like, no, like we need to do this as a strategy. We need to have multiple shows targeting different personas. Most classically, you will have shows, for example, that target decision makers, C-level folks, VPs, directors, and then other shows that maybe target end users. And they may actually make they may take place at different parts in the customer life journey for your business. For example, many of the C-level conversations could be related to more pre-sales and getting people to really understand the value of what you guys are doing as a business, indirectly, of course. And also, some of the things that are more targeted towards users could be targeting, customer marketing teams, targeting people who are already using your product or are about to use it, so on and so forth. Coming up with show strategy versus a content strategy has a lot of different benefits, and that's what I wanted to walk you through today so that you can take this knowledge and hopefully benefit from it or share it with your team, especially if you're trying to get them to create a show strategy as such. So the first thing is that it saves you a lot of time. With content strategies could be really, really hard to make just because there's so many moving pieces, there's so many different components, and probably one of the biggest things is this notion of, okay, I have this content calendar, but something happened and now we have to switch our content calendar completely. There's so many different different formats and moving pieces that make it very tough to just keep coming up with new ideas time and time again, month in, month out, quarter in and quarter out. One of the things that we hear a lot is that some of the ideas that people thought they would end up talking about like 2-3 quarters and end up getting changed because when they're in the moment, things, the market changes, like obviously right now during COVID, like so much stuff has changed, and it could be very unpredictable to create a long content strategy in advance, and it takes a lot of time as well. Now, when you think of it as a show strategy, and you'll laugh now because you'll realize that it's pretty much the exact same thing, but you're just thinking about it with a completely different hat on, with a completely different approach altogether. When you think of a show strategy, it's actually very difficult to run out of ideas because you're by nature co-creating that content and engaging in co-marketing with other people, other personal brands, other companies that are going to participate on your show naturally. And these people are going to help with the distribution efforts, and they're going to also help you get a lot of content from from each episode. So the first thing is saving time, as mentioned. Saving time basically comes down to looking at all the different ways you can extract content from the video episodes that you would have already created. Moving on from there would be expanding your reach. So I cheated a little bit and I touched on that a bit too soon. But as I did mention like literally 2 seconds ago, when you're collaborating with other people and you're creating content that naturally puts them in a positive light and puts the both of you in positive light, they have every motivation to share that content on, right? Especially if you give them a platform and you ask them questions that they may not necessarily be able to ask themselves, or be a bit weird if they were to do a show like kind of talking about themselves. So you're genuinely doing them a great service by actually having them on the show in that sense, and naturally they would have intrinsic motivation to share that content on. Not to mention, you can actually go much further with this and coordinate with have your marketing team coordinate with their marketing team, and it really becomes a full-blown like co-marketing effort to promote every episode that featured a specific person who maybe works in another company. Not to mention, it's a great way to build up relationships as well, especially if it's your first time reaching out. So that's in terms of expanding your reach. Thirdly is, and this is one of my favorites, is you actually get to build social proof. Many times you really gravitate to specific brands and you really feel that they believe what you believe and you want to associate with them in some way, shape, or form. And it's not about, you know, being able to work with them directly or not. You just want to be in that same space as them, and perhaps vice versa. And this is an excellent opportunity for you to have them come onto your show as such, because this way you can create something of value together. And who knows, it could lead to more collaborations between the two companies down the line. But for all the viewers, they don't know if you're working with this company or not. And that's not the point. They just see two companies, especially if the company that you brought on board is much higher profile, much larger, much more well known. It definitely sends positive signals, especially to your prospects and others that are tuning into your show, that, you know, oh my God, they had so and so on the show. I know that person. And it can also help you with distribution, as mentioned earlier. So moving on from there, it definitely helps also to recognize that your show and having a show strategy could directly help you build thought leadership. And you know, when it comes to thought leadership, there's so much different niches that you can decide to become a leader in, using your content and using your platform and using your voice. And sometimes people throw these words around and they don't know exactly what thought leadership means or what that means beyond a few like blog posts. And really, to us, you know, like what that means is really having a conversation platform, you know, having a show, for lack of a better word, where you could really create that roundtable experience for that industry, for that specific nation. Trust me, people will thank you for taking the initiative to actually have conversations about that. So moving on from there is reinforcing key messages. So again, with content strategies, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes there is this tendency to just keep on jumping to the next thing, jump to the next thing, because you know you got to keep it fresh. You got to keep thinking of that next new idea, and sometimes it makes us feel like it's almost like this content like hamster wheel that really never ends. And it definitely leads to a lot of like burnout and you know a lot of unwanted feelings and this notion that you know nothing's ever good enough. We have to keep working on the next thing and the next thing. And so when you think of, you know, building a show strategy, specifically if it's focused around a specific audience, you will be able to focus on the vital few, as they say, and focus on reinforcing key messages time and time again with different people. And ultimately, like, you know, any company, any one of us who has a company or who is part of a company, you know, you will realize that ultimately at the start of any year, your strategic priorities always revolve around two or three core things anyway. Why not build shows around that? Why not build thought leadership and relatability around that overall? So, to summarize, the reasons why you should consider thinking of your content strategy as more of a show strategy is because it can definitely help to save you time in terms of ideating and even in terms of extracting more content out of each episode, right? And for anyone who loves written content like me, you will be pleased to know that you could easily turn these video episodes into blog posts anyway, right? But not necessarily the other way around. So that's one thing. Second thing is expanding your reach, as we said, building social proof, building thought leadership, you know, repurposing content overall. We touched on that as well. And lastly, reinforcing key messages and focusing on those vital few. So anyways, I hope this video added value to you. Please let me know what you thought in the comments wherever you're watching this. And if it is your first time, please do consider subscribing. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.